Ted Cruz, one of our favorite conservatives in that body, was challenged by Dick Durbin in the most horrendous, offensive, disgusting way. And this kind of thing might work for Dick Durbin when he's dealing with some other senator, but it ain't going to work with Ted Cruz. Compared to Ted Cruz, Dick Durbin is a mental midget. Compared to me, Dick Durbin is a mental midget. So compared to Ted Cruz, it ain't even close. Let's watch.
Think of one Jewish organization in America that you might turn to ask, what do you think? Is this man's background or statements anti-Semitic? I think it might be the Anti-Defamation League. ADL. We all know them. They've been around a long, long time.
Yeah, they have. And as you know from watching this program, the ADL, Anti-Defamation League, had a stalwart, sterling, perfect reputation right up until the moment they hired their current CEO, who used to work in the Obama White House. He has politicized the ADL. The Anti-Defamation League is just this short of being the Southern Poverty Law Center at this point. They're like Media Matters. They use charges of anti-Semitism and racism and homophobia as a political weapon to help the left. It's not about anti-defamation anymore, sadly. In fact, Mr. Greenblatt, the new head of the ADL, he sort of learned that he's been walking down the wrong path with the wrong people after the October 7th terror attacks. You remember, he actually found out and recognized, wait a second, my fellow leftists are actually anti-Semitic as well? So maybe he's starting to change the ADL's approach, but what Dick Durbin's about to do by citing this despicable organization, or at least despicable recently, is one for the books. Watch.
Let me read the letter that they wrote to this committee and every member after the questioning, which you've just heard, and similar questions from other Republican nominees. As the leading anti-hate organization in the world, whose mission is to stop the defamation of the Jewish people and to secure justice and treatment for all, ADL is compelled to speak out about the inappropriate and prejudicial treatment of Adil Abdul Mangi, a nominee for U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, during the Judiciary Committee hearing on December 13th, 2023. Berating the first American Muslim federal appellate judicial nominee with endless questions that appear to have been motivated by bias toward his religions is profoundly wrong. Hate, bias, and bigotry have no place in government, especially in the hallowed halls of Congress.
So you see what he's doing here. The ADL sent us this letter, and I'm going to read it out loud here because Republicans on this committee asking questions of the first Muslim American nominated to the court. It's clearly anti-Muslim hate that was being displayed here, right? This is what Dick Durbin is currently, as you're seeing it, accusing his fellow senators of being bigots, anti-Muslim bigots. Just wait till Ted Cruz jumps in here.
When nominees approach a congressional hearing, their religion, heritage, race, gender, or any other protected identity characteristic should not be the subject for political fodder. This was an attempt to create controversy where it does not exist, the ADL writes. ADL urges leaders to refrain from fueling discrimination and hate and urges the Senate to offer Mr. Mangi a fair vote based on his qualifications and fitness. Let me also report, if I can, that at the end of his questioning by Senator Cruz, I asked Mr. Mangi if he would want to give a complete answer. Here is what he said about the incident involved, the event that has been highlighted over and over again. I'll answer your question very directly, Senator Cruz. I will condemn without equivocation any terrorism, any terrorist, or any act of terrorism, or any defense of any act of terrorism. And this event, I don't know this event, Mr. Mangi said. I don't know anything about this event or who these people are. I've never heard of them. If someone on there is a terrorist, I condemn them. He said that under oath unequivocally. Did you hear that in the response by Senator Cruz? You did not, I'm sure. And so it comes down to the bottom line. Do we have the courage to stand up and say this was wrong, the way this man's been treated? Do we have the courage to say that assuming that everyone of a Muslim faith in America is a suspect terrorist or anti-Semitic? I hope we do. Senator Lee?
Mr. Chairman, I deserve a right to respond to that.
Well, you'll decide that, but I'll decide Senator Lee's
You've
right
impugned
next.
my character, and you made an accusation
I read
that was a vicious lie. I'm going to quote from you what you said about me. You said that I had just asked a question, and here is a quote from you, Mr. Chairman, quote, that I'd said he is likely to be anti-Semitic or a terrorist because he is Muslim. Now, you have just impugned my character by making a false accusation, and I will say it is disgraceful. Did you respond to any of the substance of what I said? No. You just attacked me and called me a bigot, and you responded by stating deliberate falsehoods. You said he would be the first Muslim. Well, you know what? I understand. Excuse me. I have a right to defend myself when you impugn my character in a way that is a new low for this committee. You did not dispute any of the facts I said about the organization, that he was an advisor of, he was a donor of, he raised money for. Instead, you said he'd be the first Muslim on the federal court. Well, no, that actually is not correct. And in fact, Mr. Chairman, in fact,
judge.
So the Democrats don't want to defend the substance. So now they're screaming Islamophobia. And I understand playing the race card when anyone disagrees with the Democrats, they scream racist.
I stand by the ADL letter.
But
Senator Lee,
I'm going to defend myself because under the Senate rules, you have impugned my character in a way that is blatantly false. And let's just respond with facts, with substance rather than invective. Just recently, Zahid Qureshi was nominated by President Biden, was confirmed by the Senate. Like Mangi, Qureshi is a Pakistani American. He's a Muslim, and he was nominated to serve the people of New Jersey. However, unlike Mangi, he doesn't have association with a radical anti-Semitic group. He doesn't have association with whitewashing terrorism. Rather, Qureshi served in the Army. He was deployed twice to Iraq. He worked for the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and he served as a federal prosecutor. And he received 83 votes in the United States Senate for confirmation, the second most under Joe Biden, second only to a nominee from Texas, whom John Cornyn and I recommended. And so it is not the fact that Mr. Mangi is a Muslim that is his problem. It is the fact that his record is extreme. And by the way, if you want to look to Jewish organizations, the Zionist Organization of America has submitted a letter to this committee opposing the nomination. The Coalition for Jewish Values has submitted a letter to this committee opposing the nomination. Stop Anti-Semitism, a nonpartisan organization, has voiced their concerns with Mr. Mangi's affiliation. I want to introduce into the record, I ask unanimous consent to introduce into a record an article from the New York Post entitled Biden Judicial Nominee Draws Scrutiny Over Ties to Controversial 9/11 Memorial Event. I responded with substance and fact, and you responded with insults and invective that ignored the substance that Mr. Mangi deliberately associated with a consistently anti-Semitic organization, and yet Democrats are perfectly happy for him to be a federal judge.
I stand by the statement that I read into the record from ADL, and I also stand by
the quote from you was not from ADL.
I stand by the record that I read it into the record, the statement from ADL, and I also stand by what was said under oath by Mr. Mangi after you finished trying to associate him with this organization, that he had no connection with it.
Did you just say he had no connection with this organization? Is that seriously what you said in this hearing? He was on the board of advisors, he was a donor and raised money for him, and you just said he has no connection with him?
See, you twist this situation.
Mr. Chairman, you just said he has no connection with this organization. Is that your view and the view of Senate Democrats?
Read his statement to you.
Is that your view, that he had no connection with this organization?
Senator Lee.
Okay, you're refusing to answer because it's obviously indefensible and false.
Senator Lee.
That's beautiful. And that's why we need Ted Cruz on that wall. We love having Ted Cruz on that wall. And Dick Durbin, as I said, is a mental midget. He can't stand up to it. He hid behind the ADL and he hid behind, well, I just read his statement. Okay, but you just said it. I'll read his statement. Oh, does that mean you believe it? You'll read a statement that you didn't check out and vet yourself? It's fantastic. It's brilliant. And it's typical. We've gone well beyond guilt by association. It's racist by association. If this group says that you're racist, then I'll read this group's statement so I can call you racist without actually calling you racist. By the way, ADL, Anti-Defamation League, bending over backwards to protect this guy who has got obvious affiliations to these groups, saying, well, if you condemn him, it's because you're anti-Muslim, because he's the first Muslim American, whatever. Where was the ADL when Dianne Feinstein accused Amy Coney Barrett of being too Catholic to be on the bench? Remember that? She said, well, the dogma is strong with this one. Dogma, that's quite a word to use. Because dogma seems to suggest a papist, the Latin Church, That's what Dianne Feinstein said about Amy Coney Barrett. The dogma is strong with this one. And by the way, where was the ADL when Bernie Sanders went after Trump's nominee to the Office of Management and Budget, Russ Vought, when he attacked Russ Vought for being a Bible-believing Christian and saying so in one of his college papers? You see, the religious test is palpable when the left thinks you're a little bit too much in love with Jesus. But the second Ted Cruz says, not a problem with you being Muslim, but why are you affiliated with all of these groups that are full of hate? Suddenly now you're guilty of Islamophobia. We see right through you.